I almost didn't come out here today. This isn't a review. I just want to find out whether the Sony A7CR makes me want to photograph again.
You might have noticed that things have been quieter on my channel, not because photography no longer matters to me, but because something has changed in me. Reviewing new gear has, honestly, started to bore me. Not because cameras have gotten worse, quite the opposite. I have technically stronger cameras today than ever before, and I do appreciate that. And yet, I find myself going out to photograph less and less. Sure, more family, less time. I hesitate more to take gear with me. And that's exactly where the problem lies. In the past, technology was enough. Today, I can barely overcome that inner hurdle anymore. The real problem often shows up in very ordinary moments. Do I take the camera with me or do I leave it behind? The bigger the setup is, the more I start to hesitate, whether it's even worse taking it along just for a quick moment. And it is in exactly those moments that the camera stays behind. Not because I don't feel like photographing, but this constant overthinking has become an obstacle in my everyday life. I don't want to plan photography anymore. I want to go out when it happens. For that I need a camera that I can take with me without thinking. A camera that doesn't feel like a decision, one that is subtle enough for everyday camera use, but also powerful enough that I don't feel limited. That feeling is familiar to me. That's how I started photographing in the first place, in 2014 with the very first Sony A7, later with the A7C. Then everything got bigger, more technical, more complicated, up to today. At the same time, things got quieter here. Even now I still find compact cameras like the A7C very appealing. Of course it wasn't perfect, it had compromises. At some point the grip felt too small, especially with longer lenses, and since I work a lot manually, the simplified controls with fewer buttons felt too slow. With video it was the same. For my look and grading workflow I wanted more flexibility. But it was there in those very special moments that would otherwise have just passed by. I like thinking back to it. I still think the idea is very strong. Full frame and a small body, a camera that you simply take with you. That's exactly why the A7CR appeals to me now. Not out of nostalgia, but because it's just as practical, only more professional, and I want to find out whether the balance of size, handling and performance gives me back what I loved about the A7C and what I have missed lately. After a few days I start to notice something. I find myself thinking more often about simply taking the camera with me and less whether it's worth the effort. Not because it's perfect, but because it accompanies me more often and gets in the way less. This is what my camera everyday life looks like. I have this small bag packed and ready to go on my desk. Everything is in there, memory cards, batteries, the A7CR with one single lens. I don't need to think, I just grab the bag, done, even when there is not much time. And then there's one thing I've never done with my larger setup, but with this camera.
I have to say, with this camera around my neck, everything feels a little bit more relaxed.
It looks quite touristy, I have to admit, but it's comfortable and effective. When a special moment appears, I grab the camera, and when it's over, I let it hang again. What I notice while doing this with the A7CR, I think I draw less attention, at least I feel less observed, and because of this I move more freely and stay out longer. In terms of handling, it feels significantly better to me than the A7C. It simply sits better in the hand. Of course, it's not a full-blown flagship, it's not perfect to grip, but especially with longer lenses, the grip feels not so much like a compromise anymore. I have more physical controls, which makes the camera feel more professional to me, and besides of a joystick, I don't miss anything. That's not a deal breaker, at least from my point of view. The images also make me feel confident. A massive tree, almost black against the white surroundings, like a frozen shadow. Out here in the snow I can capture all the details, the bare branches, the precise structure, every single fork, everything rendered in absolute sharpness, and when those huge files aren't necessary, I can reduce both compression and raw resolution and adapt the camera better to my everyday use. My first impression, it makes me want to keep going, so much that I like to take it with me, even if it's just for a short time. My days are more fragmented than they used to be, fewer large time windows, more small ones, and suddenly they are enough. Again, 10 minutes, a small detour, a walk with the family. I don't have much time, but the time I have I use better, because I like taking a compact camera with me much more. I know it's less a technical argument than a psychological one, but that's exactly where something has shifted for me. A good camera is no longer just about maximum performance, but the balance between performance and the feeling that it's fun to use, that I enjoy taking it with me, enjoy using it, and never feel like it's in my way. So far, the A7CR does that really well. But of course there are things that make me skeptical, especially outdoors. I do have one point of criticism. Depending on the light, the EVF isn't ideal. Out here in the snow, everything reflects light, and because the EVF isn't large, stray light can get in quite quickly. For most situations, though, it's good enough for me. And with the high-resolution sensor, as tempting as it is, I still want to find out how well it really performs in practice, whether low-light performance suffers, and whether, in the end, it might simply be overkill. So I'm not done with this camera yet. I want to give it more time, keep photographing, keep filming, and see where it might still get in my way, or whether it will play a much bigger role in my next projects. One thing I already know. It made me want to photograph more again, and right now that's a pretty good reason to keep going. So don't hesitate, photograph, and see you soon.